Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tiffany Benson, one part of Team Benson, and it is time to harvest this week's veggies. Now you guys are not gonna see this until Wednesday, but I actually am filming this on Tuesday, but I have a really good Tummy Tuesday for you guys. So if you're watching this on Wednesday and you didn't see the Tummy Tuesday, go check it out because I'm doing something with sauerkraut, which is something that's good for you, but not a lot of people know how to use it. So, let's start some harvesting. So guys, I have tons in my garden that needs to kind of be harvested today, but I'm just going through and checking and looking and seeing what all I have. So first I want to show you guys my trim job on my tomato plant. So you guys had already seen this one, which is looking way healthier now. There's a couple more leaves I am going to take off just because they are a little sick, but it looks way healthier and it's been doing really well, and the top has kind of gotten a lot bushier. But this one really needed it. So I went ahead and I took off all the sick leaves, all the cross leaves, all just the ones that were bent and broken. And look at how many tomatoes that is on here. It is incredible. Now the reason why I prune my tomato plants so heavily is because one, that helps them with airflow, and two, it helps them maintain being healthy without getting any type of disease. Being in such a small garden, you guys don't want to let your tomato plants get all crazy and out of whack. You can actually single stem your tomatoes and just grow them up one stem, but I want to try and get a few more than just ones that will grow on one stem of tomatoes, since I can only plant so many tomato plants. So that is why I kind of let them branch out a little bit, and then I try and single stem it all the way up to the root on each branch. But it's something that I've practiced for a few seasons, and it's done really well in my garden, and it's helped keep my tomato plants a lot healthier. So if you guys are wondering how hard you can prune your tomato plants, you can put them through the ringer a bit and they'll be fine. So first up guys, I am going to make some soup. So although my celery is still kind of small, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna grab some celery stalks so that I can make some soup. Small space garden equals tiny celery. So I packed my celery in pretty tight because I wanted to grow a lot of it. Instead of growing just two big, bushels, which is probably what would have fit fine in that little planter, I grew 4 in one and 4 in the other, and then like 4 in another one. So my celery might get a little bit bigger and thicker than this, but it tastes so amazing. If you guys are buying big celery roots at the store and those big stalks, they have like no flavor to them. Growing them, even when they're only this size, are packed with a ton of celery flavor. So up next are all these little broccoli crowns that I have. I'm gonna go ahead and pull all of these ones, see if I can get one more round. I'm looking at it, I think I can get one more round of them because the okra is actually growing inside to take its place. Now the next thing I'm going to come in and grab are peas. Now this pea plant is starting to get sick. It's starting to dwindle out, and I actually have its replacement growing inside too as well. So I've just been picking the last of the peas and letting the ones that are a little bit small get a little bit bigger, because this one I plan to take out probably by the end of the week. Now this pea plant is doing a lot better. This one doesn't get as much sun as the other one is getting because it's on just the different side of the garden, but I plan to leave this one in just a little bit longer because I do have a couple of new sprouts and stuff like that coming up on this one, and the Armenian cucumber that will take its place needs a lot more heat and the nights are still a little bit cold. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the peas off of this one. So I had an amazing pea season this year. I love when the peas get pretty big like this, to where when you bite into it, it's like an actual pea that's in there. But I grew a ton of peas this year, which was actually surprising because my pea plants got destroyed earlier on, and I didn't think that they were going to produce this well. And they didn't get as tall as they normally do either. So I was really surprised and really excited that I got this many peas. And it's kind of petering out at the right time because their replacements are growing inside, and by the time that they're done, I won't be sad about pulling them out. Now I am going to go get that little kohlrabi because my loofah needs to go in its space. So my little test kohlrabi that I put, it's over in the back here. Wait, right there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that little guy, and I will add that to my stir fry for dinner tonight, which, well, will be Wednesday, even though I'm filming this on Tuesday. Isn't this little guy just the cutest? And it smells quite delicious too. Now it probably could have gone a little bit longer, but I'm still testing out growing kohlrabi. This is my first year just trying it, and this is the only one that I had. I got some at the AZ Worm Farm to taste it and see what I liked, see if I liked it, and it kind of tastes like a broccoli. Mr. Benson says that it is kind of pointless because he's like, why, when the broccoli plants just produce way more broccoli and we can just eat broccoli? And I don't disagree, but I wanted to see how it grows just in case one day I get a huge field and I can put lots of little kohlrabis in there, and then it'll make sense. So guys, just a side note, because I know a lot of you guys are looking to grow Malabar spinach too. My Malabar spinach actually started growing new leaves. So instead of pulling it out, I'm going to leave it. I pulled all of the berries off of it, and it made it kind of start to resprout again. The reason why I was going to pull it out was because I had topped it by accident, and so it hadn't grown as high up as I wanted it to grow. Like, I want it to grow all the way up to the top. But now that it's growing new little sprouts, I'm gonna let it stay and see what it does. This is my first year growing Malabar spinach, and I started it in, I wanna say October-ish. Actually, no, September. And it did really well with the heat. And I like it. I like the taste of it. It kind of has like a little bit of like, it tastes like spinach, but has like a slight sliminess of okra. Not as bad, but still kind of a slight sliminess. But I want to see if maybe it just regrows itself just fine, or what happens. So it's kind of a test to see kind of what happens with it. So next up are going to be my little radishes. Now when you grow radishes in a pot, they're tiny. They're not going to be very, very big. If you grow them in the ground, they get a lot bigger. But I like to grow them in a pot just because it gives me little extra radishes to have when I don't have a lot of space in ground, or if I'm trying to grow other things. And you get a ton of them if you plant a ton of them in there. Aren't these just the cutest little radishes you've ever seen? I love it. I'm getting so many tiny things today. So up next, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab some tomatoes. I have some 100 sweet tomatoes, and then I also have some shishito peppers on here that I need to get off because I'm going to be pruning the shishito pepper plant. A lot of people have asked me about it, so I am probably gonna do that in a video that I'll post later on this week. Now this is another one that I pruned pretty hardcore, and look at these little cherry tomatoes that are up here now. None of these, well, I had a couple of them that were red yesterday, but they pruning it, I think, made it turn red a lot quicker. And the shishitos, I need to go ahead and get all the shishitos off. So I'm gonna go ahead and collect those two things. So guys, I found something else digging around in here. Look at all these little red jalapenos. That's exciting. I'm gonna come in here and grab these in front of this giant parsley plant that's trying to go to flower. Now, I didn't have a great jalapeno season this year. All my jalapenos kind of turned out to be this size, which they should be a lot bigger than that. I think they got pretty stunted when the rats decided to eat them and eat all their leaves. So what I'm gonna do, because those things are actually pretty darn spicy, is I'm going to just dry them and then ground them up and make a jalapeno powder, and just use that for like seasonings when I need to add some spice. Now next, I'm gonna grab the carrots because I have a bush cucumber plant that I'm going to be planting where the carrots are in their pot, and I know it's gonna start getting a little hot for the carrots, and I'm seeing a little bit of like, maybe like a powdery mildew on the top of their leaves, so I'm gonna go ahead and just pull all those and then dice them up and freeze them. So this is what I'm talking about getting a little bit of like powdery mildew on the leaves. You can always tell when something is getting towards the end of its season is when it starts to get maybe sick, or when it starts to, the leaves are thickening up to where they're going to look like they're going to bolt. Now it hasn't bolted yet. I have been taking carrots from here often, and they've been doing really well, and they've been tasting really good. So like, look at that, guys. That is beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of these just because I use a lot of them for my soups and stews and different things like that. And so I just freeze my carrots. We already got one little wonky one. And it just makes it easier just to throw it into the pot when it's frozen, and I put them all in the pressure cooker and they cook up just perfectly and nice. But I need to get this pot ready for the cucumber that is over there. So guys, for all the complaining I do about growing carrots and how difficult it is to sow those tiny seeds, it's so worth it. This is not going to be all the carrots I'm going to use for an entire year, but we are going to tell the difference between these carrots and a store-bought carrot when we bite into it, when we have some stew. So far this bucket is shaping up to be quite nice with all the little things that are in here. But now it's time to pick some greens. Alright guys, I am in love with my beautiful green bed. Like, this is one of the most amazing little spots in my garden. And currently I have some spinach that needs to get picked. I have some lettuce that's getting munched on, so I know that needs to be picked, and I may or may not keep that because my lettuce in here is starting to bolt, and so it kind of gives it a different flavor when it starts to bolt. So I tried out growing some lettuce, but we're reaching 90 degrees and it's just not doing well for right now. So I think that I'm just going to pick a little bit of this and then already start planting its spot. What I am happy about though is the spinach. The spinach usually bolts a lot quicker because I used to always put my spinach in this big thing, but I put it down here kind of in the shade, and I don't know what it was this year, but I had a great spinach season. Even with the spinach over here in the pots, they're still doing really well. But the lettuce, I think it's because the lettuce is older in there, it's time for it to come out. Now I'm going to pick some collards today because I want to get these new little collard plants. Well, they're not new, I just transferred them from the pots. I want to get them a little bit more sun, so I'm going to go ahead and make some room in here and pull the collards. These Swiss chard leaves, guys, are absolutely huge. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of these because since I have tomatoes, I love sauteed tomatoes with Swiss chard and garlic and onions over rice. And then the kale, I think I'll come in and grab a little bit of the kale too to kind of mix the kale and the collards to make some southern greens. Now the other thing that's in here as I pass all of the bok choy is this cabbage that is heading up, guys. This is an Ozark cabbage, or Oxart cabbage, so it kind of comes in a cone shape. So I think I'm just going to see how big this is going to get, maybe for like a couple more days, and then come in and pull it because I have some corned beef and I can make corned beef and cabbage. But back there is another Swiss chard plant, so we're going to have Swiss chard for dinner. Alright guys, so I think that I am going to get the collards and the spinach maybe tomorrow because I have a ton of Swiss chard. And with the carrots needing to be cut up and processed and everything else needing to be washed, I think that that's going to be a lot to do in one day when I still have to work. So since there's no rush for me to get anything like processed in a day, I think I'm just going to go with the Swiss chard for today, and then maybe about Friday, then I'll go in and pull some of the collard greens when I get ready to cook them because there's no rush because it's growing in the backyard. So I also quickly wanted to show you how far back I cut my Swiss chard. So that's that one, and then the ones over here are cut far back too as well. Now whenever I prune like a green, I cut it all the way down to just the crown. That way if there's any bugs or anything like that on it, I get that and wash it off before it becomes alive and then I can enjoy the crops before they also get eaten. And so I have seen a little bit of worms in here, just some little caterpillars that have been trying to munch on some things. As you can see, like right here, my kale has a little munch in it, but they're not anything crazy. Now, I had left my row cover open for a while when it was raining, and so that's when those little things got in. But having this row cover, guys, has made a huge difference, because normally all of this stuff would be destroyed by now. So I think that's all I'm gonna grab, because that's enough for me to do today. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that I need to go ahead and get in the kitchen, get washed and processed. I am going to be coming out throughout the week, because right now my garden is really putting out a lot of different stuff, between herbs and greens and tomatoes. Like, it's really giving me a lot of things. So I'm really happy with this year's garden season. I tried to plant everything like in successions, to where like I would always have something growing, and that is what I'm doing with my summer and my spring garden too as well. As you can see, I have little new things tucked into little places, and when I do my garden tour, you guys will really be able to see those little new things that are just kind of tucked into little places, and they're growing while something is growing above it. And I found that to be just a very productive way of gardening in a small space when you're trying to provide yourself with as much food as possible. So until next time, guys, make sure you guys grow yourselves a garden, because even a small space can provide you with tons of food. Bye, guys.